This is Tom Duty, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty in a Google search for my site. Listeners, if you have listened to me before and you notice a difference in my voice, it's because I'm recovering from a mild illness. People have noticed is the nephew of Manish, who was working the beer store. Manish, who is the boss and owner of the beer store, and Maria, who served me espresso today, commented. And so if you detect a difference in my voice, you are in a select crowd. I'm inspired today. My wife went kind of early morning. I did not accompany her to the bus, which is routine for me. I work from a home office and slept for a couple more hours till afternoon, and I've been on the mend. Sometime as I woke the second time, after saying ciao to my wife, I get a notice that inspired me to do this. I got an additional person who used my code. His name's Anthony. And that person, if he advances to meet the minimum, which varies person to person, market to market, Uber to Uber, I don't know. I can't predict how many his is. But when he reaches the minimum, I get a bonus. I've earned one of these bonuses so far to the credit of Keisha. I mean, to a joint credit, a credit for me doing something attractive enough to get her to use my code. And secondly, for her to reach the minimum. Two things have to happen, which is very cool. So I'm approaching these very delicately because it's like, I'd like to get more of them, but I'm above zero. So the best thing I can do is don't screw it up. So here's what I think I'm doing right. I was tempted to send reminders to these people who registered with my code but did not advance, and I restrained myself. I did not send reminders. Now, through the filtering of Hangouts, I can send them a one-to-one message, and they can send back to me, but we kind of don't know who each other is. So I mean, these people know who I am because they found me on the internet and they put in my code, but I don't know who they are. And the Uber allows me to write to them one-on-one without me knowing who they are. And I've restrained myself. I'm not doing that. So anyone who enrolls with me will get a continued interaction from me as pre-moment of using my code. What that means is I am doing a one-to-many format. That is YouTube and Instagram, and I do a bunch of other things, but for Uber, it's YouTube and Instagram. My Instagram right now is exclusive Uber, and my YouTube is a mixture of everything I do audio visual. I'll repeat, Instagram is exclusively Uber, and YouTube holds everything I do that includes audio or visual or both. So Anthony, let's just take Anthony for example, since he's the most fresh. I will continue to interact with Anthony in a one-to-many format. And of course, Anthony and others, you're invited to interact with me on a one-to-one format, and I will not out you. I don't have the ability to, by the way, but if you think I do, you don't have to fear that, okay? I will refer to you as Anthony, which of course is a common name. It's not identifying you. I do have your last name, by the way, Anthony, but you'll see in a minute I don't disclose it. So if you want to ask me questions, I will get those questions answered. I feel like I'm being overly rewarded for relatively nothing. I'm doing recreational blogging, and people are using my code. So I'm doing something recreational, and in theory, I'm being paid for it, which is fun to think about. It just also highlights my willingness to do more. So let me repeat. If anyone contacts me with a question one-to-one, I'm not going to come up with the answer, I don't know, if I don't know. I'm going to say I don't know if I don't know, but I'm going to know. I'm going to get that question answered. Now, if that means going to, I can't make an appointment, but going to Uber in Hoboken, which is easiest for me. But if for some reason it's a New York question, I'm going to go to one of the Ubers. There's Queens and the Bronx and Brooklyn. I would go to Queens to get that answered one-on-one with an Uber Pro. From my experience, there is nothing they can't answer. They have some highly competent people, and those questions do get answered. It's a huge effort, and I am willing to do that and more. So Anthony and the others who have registered with my code but have yet to reach the minimum, that excludes Keisha. Keisha, I've given a gracious thank you, and she's written back to say you're welcome. It was an awesome exchange. Anthony and the other people have used my code but have yet to reach the minimum. That's my pledge to you. I'm not going to twist on you. Whatever got you to use my code, I've been doing this one-to-many format, Instagram, YouTube. I'm going to continue to do one-to-many format. And if you interact with me, say an email or a text or a WhatsApp, Google Chat or whatever, I'm not going to out you. I'm not going to identify you. I'm not going to bring you out on the digital stage that I'm on. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and show this list from here. That was essentially my whole message, but I can't seem to click in the right places. Share my screen. Present to everybody. And I go to my Instagram, and here is the list. This is a screen capture right here. Now, I put black around it in an attempt to be distinctive. So every time I show this list, I plan to format it the same way, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. So Traverse is here on top. Now, Keisha has dropped to the bottom, although Keisha was right here. Maybe Keisha was here. But when she hit her minimum, she got a green check. Again, we had this happy exchange where I thanked her on a video like this. I have a feeling she watched it, and she wrote back and said, you're welcome. It was really, really, truly wonderful. And when that happened, then some time passed, and she dropped down here with a green check. So now these are my people. Mohammed enrolled at the beginning of the summer, has not yet. This, by the way, this means needs to finish enrollment. So I'm going to comment on some of these others. These people just aren't advancing. Oh, look at that. I think this, I'm noticing this for the first time. I think that darker circle around indicates their progress. I wish I had noticed that before. As you can see, Keisha has a circle all the way around hers. So maybe that's an indication that this person is named Augustine. That person might be close, which would be cool. But the people who aren't advancing, Mohammed especially, he enrolled, put in my code at the beginning of the summer and didn't advance. So let me be assured of you, there are plenty of reasons not to do Uber. And so I'm not going to spam anyone because I don't know why you're not doing it, but there are good reasons to do it. First of all, you may have died. Second of all, you may have relocated. You were in an area that had Uber and now you don't anymore. You may have intended you're in an area that does Uber driving and you can transport people and your car broke down. You got a DUI. You're in prison. You lost your sight. You're no longer a licensed driver for some mental, physical disability. All kind of reasons you're not doing Uber. You've tried doing Uber Eats and like you had some of the messy things that I had when I started. And so you're not advancing. So there are 100 and more. There's unlimited good reasons you don't want to do Uber. So Mohammed, Nicholas, Tenora, Augustine, Travis. I shouldn't include Anthony because you're so fresh. This was just today. You people aren't advancing. I should exclude Augustine also because it appears Augustine is advancing. So let me do that better. Travis, Tenora, and Nicholas, and Mohammed, it seems that you've enrolled. And it would seem that by indication of this quarter of a circle that you're not advancing and you have had enough time. Again, I'm excluding Anthony from that list. He has a quarter of a circle, but he's fresh. So anyways, Travis, Tenora, Nicholas, Mohammed, may have very good reasons not to advance. And quite honestly, I'm not trying to convince you to advance. I'm saying there are probably good reasons. If there's any reason you think I can help, like I run the app on my phone and it just doesn't work, that one I can fix, almost guaranteed. And I got a $20 phone that I'm doing this on. So getting a new phone is obviously an option, but getting your old phone to work is probably something I can do. And another guy, I've had 2 questions so far. One guy had a phone problem. These questions came face to face. One guy had a phone problem, and someone else wanted to ride a skateboard. I've answered both of those questions thoroughly. So if you have any questions, Travis, Tenora, Nicholas, Mohammed, you're invited to ask. I didn't say please because I'm not trying to solicit questions. You are invited to ask. I will do my very best to answer the questions if I get them. Anthony registered today with my code. Thank you, Anthony. And Augustine, you seem to be making some progress. So best to you. The biggest reason I can think of why people think they want to do Uber and then change their mind is when they come to realize this, and some people don't realize it until after their first trip. As a driver, this is especially relevant in my neighborhood. Now, I'm in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel, though even people who are not local and maybe even foreigners might know this. New Jersey, a part of New Jersey, as like a part of Connecticut, is really suburban New York City. So I can go through the tunnel and be there in 15 minutes on a bus. Okay. I can also get on that same bus and take 90 minutes on a Friday rush hour. So what that means practically is you can push your accept on Uber. You're a driver. You're transporting people. It's nothing to do with Uber Eats. You're transporting people. You push accept. You go get that person who's usually near, in our area, very near, and then you come to realize you pull up, you see the person, he or she or they have luggage. Where are they going? JFK, it's Friday, rush hour. You're not home for another maybe 4 hours. So that is a disaster when you cannot predict your ending time. Take any job. You're throwing pizza, you're waiting tables, you're doing real estate, sales associate, you're selling real estate. You know, I don't mean selling real estate. That didn't belong, but something that's more ordinary job-like. You can predict when you're going to end with relative precision. If you work over bussing tables, it might be part of an hour. You know, your restaurant got slammed and there's additional cleanup. But you can still, you know where you're going to be when you end. And within an hour or so, maybe 90 minutes, you're going to be able to predict your quit time. So if you have plans with someone, your plans can stay intact. Hey, it's Friday night. We might get busy, but I'll meet you at 10 o'clock. Well, 10 o'clock becomes 11:30, and that's a kind of thing that can be absorbed. But when all of a sudden that evening becomes 4 hours, this is a complete renovation of someone's expectations of what they were going to do with the time. So that's the biggest reason I can suggest. I can imagine that people look into Uber and say, oh, no, I don't want Uber driving transport. To some extent, Uber Eats has the same thing if you're in a car, but on a bicycle or a walker, you don't have those problems. You don't have, you have the problem, but it's relatively small. As a walker or a bicyclist, I can predict where I'll be and when I'll be done with enough precision that it's not I got to know that there's some, maybe if I accept this, I might regret it. However, if I regret it, it's usually not a big regret. Like my barrio, through the Lincoln Tunnel, across Manhattan, all the way out to JFK, a 4-hour trip that you didn't know you were going to take. That is one reason not to do Uber. And that could be the reason for Travis or Tenora, Nicholas, or Mohammed not to advance. So with that, I'm going to do one other thing on this. And if anyone were to scan my Uber page. Now, this appears to be not Uber related, but I did take that at the end of some Uber trips. I thought it was a cool picture. That's from New Jersey toward the Midtown Manhattan skyline. It's right here I covered before. And so if I keep scanning down, I'm going to get another one of these. Now, I haven't had a new person for a while. Anthony just popped up today. There we go. So this, oh, look at this. This is where Keisha used to fit. So this is before I got Anthony and before Keisha dropped to the green. So she wasn't finished and Keisha dropped down to the bottom. Now I can see why I missed those circles before because I cropped them out. I'm not going to crop them out anymore. But listeners, if you're looking at my if you're looking at my Instagram page, that's how I'm framing these who has registered with my code. So again, to all those who registered with my code, which is a growing list, an exciting list, I thank each and every one of you. Anthony, a fresh thank you to you. Travis, thanks again. Augustine, thank you. Tenora, thank you. Nicholas, thank you. Mohammed, thank you. And special thanks to Keisha. You are a studette, Keisha. This has been Tom Duty, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty in a Google search from my site. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, good evening, or restful night's sleep. Ciao.